Hello everyone, we are now going to start the discussion, and this is going to be our new topic, that is your sustainability, climate, policy, culture and governance. So means this chapter is going to be way too long because it covers many things. Okay, like number one is your sustainability. Clear? Write down sustainability. Sustainability. Clear? Sustainability. Write down second, climate policy. Climate policy. Climate policy. Clear? Then we have culture. Third one is culture. And the fourth one is governance. So these are the four things which we are going to study in this particular topic. Clear? And basically till now, if you'll ask me, till now we have separately done the discussion on sustainability, climate policies, governance, culture. But this is very important chapter where you will connect the dots between this climate changes, public policies, and what business we are doing so that we can become more sustainable. Clear? So it sounds to be a bit heavy, but I'll promise you that I'll try to keep it super simple and will walk you with a very clear understanding. Okay. Now this lecture is just a summary of the whole topic so that you will get a good understanding as what we are going to study, and this is very important. Clear? So write down point number one. Write down point number one, the global story of climate policy. Now this is something which you are well aware of, okay, and you have done it before as well. Clear? Write down number one. Write down number one, the global story of climate policies. The global story of climate policies. The global story of climate policies. Now, basically over here, my first question to all the students, that why do we need this international climate policy? What's the purpose of having that? Okay, that is important. Clear? So see, this climate is not only about a border or a particular country or a particular city. Clear? It's about the air, ocean, ecosystem, and all are connected. Clear? So if one country is getting affected, the others are also getting affected because everyone is having the same air, same ocean, same weather. Clear? So it's important that there needs to be proper international climate policies rather than individual policies. Now over here we have discussed all these policies, who made these changes. Okay, like Paris Agreement 2015. Clear? That this was more flexible. Now country voluntarily submitted their own climate action plans, and they have a goal that they want to limit the global warming to 1.5 degree Celsius to 2 degree Celsius. Clear? So it was based more on peer pressure rather than the strict rule. Okay, so that was given. Second we have is the Kyoto Protocol. Second we have is the Kyoto Protocol. It was came in 1997. It was came in 1997. Now this was legally binding deal where developed countries have promised to cut the emission by 5% from what they have decided in 1990. Clear? And by when they will achieve the target? 2012. This was their aim. Clear? Now apart from this Kyoto Protocol, we have one more point to discuss, that is UNFCCC. Okay, that is your United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So in 1992 this was the first global agreement which was actually talking about the climate change. Clear? But over here the trick is that every country asks for the fairness. Okay, like developed countries like US and European Union, they have caused maximum emission in the past. to get developed. Clear? But if you'll ask the countries which are growing, fast growing, like India or China, now they are emitting more. See, Europe and US, they have emitted earlier and now they are developed. But India and China are emitting now so that they can become developed. Clear? And in the future, even countries like Indonesia and Brazil, they will emit more to become developed. Clear? Getting my point? So the debate is that who should cut more? Who should cut more? US or European Union, China or India, or Brazil or Indonesia? Clear? Because they have done it earlier. They have done their part. Now it's time for, now India will argue to the USC, you have already done the mission. Now why you want to stop our growth? You have already grown. Now you are stopping our growth. So this is creating a chaos among all the countries, that who will actually stop the emission. Clear? So we will study about that in this particular topic. Clear? Now there are three scopes of emission, 1, 2 and 3. There are three scope of emission: scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 of emission. Clear? Now emission are basically a company create directly, like burning the fuel in company vehicle. Clear? This is your scope 1. Write down. Emission a company creates directly. Emission a company creates directly, like burning the fuel in a company vehicle. Clear? Second is basically the emission from the electricity or energy a companies buy. Okay, you are buying the electricity to run your factory. Clear? So now what happens is that in order to produce that electricity, there is an emission. Clear? We call this as a scope 2. And scope 3, basically the emission that actually happens in the entire supply chain. Clear? Like how much carbon is used by your suppliers, your customers, and even during the product shipping. And this is very hard to measure, because you have to calculate at each and every point how much carbon emission is taking place. Are you getting the point of discussion? So these are the three scope of emission. Clear? So think of it like this. If a burger shop actually burns gas to cook, number one is, write down. This example will help you to remember this very easily. In scope 1, write down, if a burger shop burns the gas to cook, this is your scope 1. Second, uses the electricity from the grid, is your scope 2. Clear? And the third one is, they buy the beef from a farm that emits lots of methane. This is your scope 3. And this is the last but the hardest to even calculate and to control, but it is the biggest. Clear? So these are the three scopes which we are going to discuss in our coming discussions. Clear? Then point number 3. Point number 3. This is about the carbon pricing. It's about carbon pricing. This is about the carbon pricing, making pollution expensive. This is carbon pricing, making pollution expensive. Now I'll let me tell you a story. You will understand this point in way too detail. Anant Ambani recently have purchased one forest, Vintara something, I don't exactly remember the name, Vintara something like that. And when they have purchased the forest, it was shown like that he was in love with the animal and plants. Clear? But that was not actually the love. It was more of a business. Why? Try to understand. What business they are in? Petrochemicals, produces huge amount of carbon. Clear? Now, forest, but it actually absorbs the huge amount of carbon. So in future, suppose there is a carbon pricing. That means what? They have to pay the charges. They have to pay the charges because they are consuming it. Clear? Because they are consuming it. Are you clear with this? But on the other hand, from the forest, if they are absorbing the carbon dioxide, they will receive the money. So they will equate it. clear. But there is one more thing, that forest is so big, that if they are producing say 100 units of carbon, but this particular forest is absorbing say 2000 units of carbon. Now ONGC, IOC, GAIL, all the companies, Vedanta, who are actually producing the carbon, they have to purchase it from the Anand Ambani. The carbon units, they have to purchase it from the Anand Ambani, because they have 1900 units of carbon absorption left. So they are making a very good business. So means someone who have studied the SCR, they have given the suggestion to Anand Ambani, see, buy a forest in future, this is going to happen. So if you have the credits, carbon credits, you will make more amount of money. Are you getting the point? So there are two main ways by which you can actually charge. One is the carbon tax. You pay a fixed amount for every ton of CO2 you emit. Clear? Second is cap and trade. Basically, the government will set a limit on the total emission, and companies, either they will get or buy the permits. Means company A, company B, both are allowed to emit 100 units of carbon. Suppose they used only 60 and they want say 140. So they will sell their remaining 40 units to company B. Clear? So if they emit less, they can sell their extra permit to others. So it is also a source of income, but a expense for the other company. Clear? But there are some more countries, they have more different rules apart from these two, like fuel efficiency rules for the car, that one particular car will actually run with say 15 to 18 kilometers per liter. Now apart from this, there is one more way of actually calculating the taxes and tariffs, that is the feed in tariff. Means those who are generating the renewable energy like solar or wind, the government should pay them the money. That will motivate not only them but others also, that this is the way they can generate a source of income for themselves. Or you can do the third one as well, like the companies which are producing the electricity. Okay, so you can put the sanction on them that 40% of the electricity must comes from the renewable source and remaining 60% from wherever you want. Okay, it can be the nuclear power plant or it can be the coal or thermal power plant. Clear? So you can keep it flexible, but this is just a way where by which you can do the carbon pricing. Clear? Coming to the point number 4, that is the role of central banks and supervisors. See, the term which is very important to use, central bank and supervisor. See, basically this central bank, the institution that looked after the company's financial system, now they are also involved in this climate actions. Clear? Now they have directed all the banks, okay, to include the climate risk in their risk management, to run the climate stress testing, basically to check how bank will handle the extreme climate situations like floods and heat waves, and report their climate related risk publicly. Clear? Because if a big climate event hits, it can crash the economy. Clear? So financial institution needs to be prepared for that, and uh, just like they are prepared for the inflation or the market crashes. Clear? Now the private sector is also joining hands in this. Clear? So the companies are now under pressure from the governments, from the investors, from the customers, from the society. Clear? So in order to become greener and more sustainable, clear, but what happening is over here, they find it very costly, because they have to install the infrastructure. Suppose they are emitting huge amount of carbon, so now they need to install such infrastructure that the emission of the carbon will be less. Okay, it get trapped, or it get actually modified. Okay, so this is a cost involved, so many companies are not moving ahead in this regards. Clear? So basically there are private sector climate frameworks that actually guides the company on how to measure, report and reduce their climate impact. Clear? And this includes your TCFD and SBTI. TCFD and SBTI. Clear? TCFD is your task force on climate related financial disclosure, and SBTI is your science based target initiative. Clear? So basically these tools actually help the company show how serious they are about fighting this climate change. Now the last point which was discussed over here is the nature, biodiversity and ecosystem. Clear? Now climate change does not only affect the humans, it also affect your biodiversity. Clear? That is your animal, plants, insects, etc. So when forests are cut down or oceans are polluted, so we not just lose the spices, but we also lose some ecosystem services. Okay, the free services which we are getting from them, like the clean air, fresh water, pollination, flood protection, so many. Clear? So that's why companies and governments are now focused on nature related risk and how our actions actually impact the planet's natural balance. So we need to manage both of them all together. Clear? So basically we are entering an age where sustainability is not just a choice anymore, it is a necessity. So now each and every sector, whether it is a public or private, they has a key role to play in this aspect. Clear? So I have given you an understanding that what we are going to study in this topic, starting from the number one, that is the global story of climate policies. What are scope 1, 2 and 3 emission, carbon pricing, the role of central bank and supervisors, fifth, private sector and green finance, and sixth number is nature, biodiversities and ecosystem. Clear? So with this I am ending up our lecture number 1. Thank you.